Hi guys, it's James of Cryptoconsh, and today I'm going to do an interview with one of the founders of Commonwealth, Dillon. And basically, Commonwealth is used to discuss votes on multiple platforms in crypto. In this case, we're looking at the Cosmos, and specifically, we're looking at Osmosis. Basically, a while ago on Osmosis, Prop 199 went through, and this formalized the usage of Commonwealth. So basically, anyone that wants to make a governance proposal should post it to Commonwealth first for a minimum of 3 days before it being submitted to the chain for a vote. This has allowed people to discuss this and refine it before it actually goes live. This has been in effect for a while now, and to get there you just go on Commonwealth.im. As you can see under Osmosis, and here are all the discussions about recent proposals. If you click on any of them, you can see the details and the feedback from the community. You can log in with any of your wallets, or you can decide to use your email. There are many other on here as well. To find them, just go in the search bar. So without further ado, let's get cracking. Well, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Hey everyone, I'm Dylan. I'm the founder of Commonwealth. I guess got my introduction to crypto back in 2013, 2014 when I got my first Bitcoin. As they say, it's been down the rabbit hole ever since. It's the classic Alice in Wonderland metaphor, but honestly, I feel like it's still true. And I won't talk about what we're up to. I know we'll get to that, but as for myself, in crypto, definitely interested in seeing the DeFi experiments, but personally what interests me is much more around coordination. And so how can we use that to, run systems, whether they're blockchains, even collabs. If you look, I'm just looking out the window here in New York, to large things. So how can we use that to solve coordination challenges that we have today? But yeah, that's the TLDR. But been working on Commonwealth. The product, which we'll definitely get to full time for, I guess, almost 4 years at this point, in various settings. So yeah, happy to dive in and talk about all things crypto and governance.
Yeah, sounds really exciting. Really good to be here. And also, your shirt and the background certainly match the Alice in Wonderland analogy.
Right. This is, there's the meme, and I was making this joke earlier, but it's DAOs it's the world if DAOs were on. DAOs worked if they should. I'll try to find a meme and maybe we can put it in the show.
Hopefully it will lead to the utopia we all expect, but it's going to be a hard fought process with a lot of twists and turns and a lot of dangers on the way. So yeah, you briefly gave us a history then of the Commonwealth there. Is there any more you want to delve into regarding that? So you went down the rabbit hole. It started 4 years ago. How many team members do you have? How long you've been operating for in a larger capacity?
Yeah, I can add a little bit more context there. So so I'll add in a little bit more on how I kind of just got to starting the thing. Started a previous company that was called Source. That was like Airbnb for Wi-Fi. And so really similar to what Helium is doing. And that was I want to say in the last 2 cycles ago, so 2017 at this point. I'm stuck still in 2021, I guess. Even during that time, that didn't end up working out, but really still focused around governance. And so the SegWit debate was super kind of active in both the public eye and also on a technical basis. And I mean, the state of the art was just Twitter and Discord, right? And it's tough to make decisions like that. So that was kind of the seed of what kind of inspired us to work on what we're doing. But a little bit of a detour. We started Commonwealth Labs as a product studio, and so had a few projects trying to find product market fit. And this was kind of something that came organically, and so we've since spun that out. But just to give a little bit more history there, so the first project we launched was called Edgeware. And that we launched a Polkadot smart contract platform, and kind of a little precursor to DeFi. We actually held the thing called a lock drop, and so you locked essentially kind of like ETH Shanghai or the Beacon chain. You locked it for 3, 6, or 12 months, and we actually had 3% of ETH locked into one solitary contract. So that was pretty cool.
Wow. So you were essentially smart contract pioneers then before they even became a big thing, or just about the time they became a big thing.
Yeah, that was I mean, it was definitely a different time, so Uniswap was not yet a protocol. Compound, I think had 1 or 2 mil. And locked in it. So that was pre-DeFi summer. This was summer 2018, I want to say. But to kind of fast forward a little bit, the same thing that I mentioned about like SegWit and, running Edgeware. It's just tough to get everyone on the same page. And really, obviously, if you're involved in governance or, have a validator or delegate to anyone, it's still relatively painful to go through the governance process. Death by 1,000 paper cuts, going through a bunch of different
100%.
tools. Yeah, we're there.
So essentially, you're a serial entrepreneur then?
I guess you could say so. It's a lot of past projects, but really still working on one central theme in crypto. I guess you could say.
I mean, Commonwealth itself spans across multiple blockchains, doesn't it? And the Cosmos is just a part of that currently.
But definitely a really, really important part. I think I don't want to jump too far ahead, but over the past few weeks, have hosted a series of town halls on Twitter, and one of the things that always rings true is like Cosmos is the ecosystem is really pushing forward governance, and so happy to talk about that. But that's something that very well as well.
I saw. I listened to that and how like there's more governance on chain with the Cosmos than pretty much any other protocol in terms of user base. Very, very important, and it's. I want to say it's a trailblazer, kind of is. It's leading the way in many regards, from like fundamental technology to how the governance is actually working. Because there's a lot of drama that we're seeing at the moment, particularly with governance. As we know, Juno, someone might be voted out. I don't know if you're looking at that governance at the moment. Like on Osmosis, we're having. Well, Osmosis is one of the ones I would say that is at the forefront, and as we know, at Prop 199, Commonwealth became the main place to write any submissions for regarding voting, and they have to be held on for 3 days. Is that right, on Commonwealth, for people to discuss before they're put on chain?
Yes.
Yeah. So essentially, I wouldn't say it's a monopoly, but it's the place people go to for preemptively putting up things they want to vote about on Osmosis, which is incredibly important. So you're in a very important place in the Cosmos, because fundamentally Osmosis is dominating in terms of monthly transactions.
Right.
And in terms of like how, as we discussed prior to this, they're paying active staff. They've got like 24/7 responses. They're very active in how they're dealing with complaints in their user base. So it's a very good part of the Cosmos ecosystem to be part of. Arguably, some might say the best part if you're comparing it to the total transactions on the Cosmos Hub itself.
Right.
So yeah, you've done a good job wedging into that. But now it's about the growth and what can be brought to the table down the line, isn't it? So I'll move on with the next few lines of questioning then.
Please.
Can you explain the Commonwealth governance model and how it works? I think I just explained that, didn't I, accidentally?
No. Hey,
I'm sure you can add a lot to it.
I'm glad that we're the message is already getting out there, and like the product itself can hopefully speak for itself. But I think just a small beyond talking about the specific model, the pain points. I'll just circle back to actually your answer as well as the previous one I gave. Really built it to solve our own problem. And so, what do we see as kind of those things? And governance is annoying to kind of participate in, but obviously very, very important. And, ideas might start on Twitter, Discord, or wherever else. But, it does feel like they need like a real place to not just have those long form discussions, but also have them live permanently, right? We want a record of all the decisions that we've made. And based on the formal governance system, like we've got to have a who's who, right? So anonymous addresses, certainly, or logging with an email. We want to be part of Web3, and so using the source of identity, and so that's another key feature of the product. And being able to create, execute, and move forward on-chain proposals. So that's something that we think is near and dear. Lots of work to be done on that, but bring all that stuff into one place. And I think the one thing that you mentioned was we do hold kind of like a critical role, and like that's not something that we take lightly. But continuing to be a system of record for the whole space for each individual project is definitely how we see ourselves. I won't get too far maybe into like future stuff. I know there's some other things that we could talk about, but we already do index kind of like on-chain proposals. And so, Web 2 kind of is like the next step. And so whether it's Discord conversations, important Twitter conversations, we want to make sure that that stuff is happening bi-directionally.
Yeah, that's that was my next line of questioning, actually. So how are you gonna kind of congregate all these mediums together, like into perhaps a page of some kind? That sounds like quite a complex task in itself.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I guess like just to frame it first, the whole thing that we're doing is ideally helping community engagement and governance engagement, right? And so anything that we can do there is part of that. And so we see those in small numbers. Just like if you were to use discourse, I don't want to specifically call them out, or by any means, but we do see more aggressives participate, and so that's a small win. And to your larger point, we have some ideas, but we don't know exactly what. But there's, actually on a Commonwealth thread, there's discussion on this. Mem.ai is a product kind of in like, traditional startups, Silicon Valley. And one thing that I do is like save to mem, right? You just tag someone or tag the thing, and then it adds it to your space, your workspace that you're part of. And so at least for Twitter, that would be something there. For Discord or Discourse or Discord forums, getting kind of the top reacted to comments or threads in Discord, directly mirroring kind of like forum channels. Those are all things that we're thinking of. So there's not a one size fits all solution, but basically the idea is like, let's make sure that we're capturing kind of like the top like 80% of the context that everyone needs to know, and just bring it in one place. And it'll differ based on the product and the other kind of like source that we're coming from.
But I'd say quite hard to achieve without using quite a lot of human input on specific subject areas. Like I don't think AI has got the capability to kind of isolate the key components of forums, extract those points and put them in different parts of a page yet. I think we will get there very soon, but
I agree. Yeah,
a complex task.
And it's I totally agree. And using thumbs up, thumbs down and reactions, like those are actually really valuable sources of input. And I think those are definitely not to be treated lightly and actually add so much context from many of these channels. So but yeah, just bringing everything in one place, whether it's discussions, voting, whatever else, and those other sources of conversation in the future. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds quite exciting. Like if you can manage to pull all that together, because I think it would be a very unique thing that we haven't really seen yet with, because, we individually have to, go on Twitter, go on Discord, go on Reddit, and then go on Commonwealth, and then there's loads of other mini little forums as well. But if I'm making like a catch-up video for the Cosmos for the week, there's lots of individual news channels I need to go to be able to collate my data, and then I have to kind of personally choose which is most valuable, which is most discussed, which one is a bit shaky. Yeah, I can understand it's a very complex undertaking, but potentially very, very worthwhile. And it does fit. Like there is a gap for that in the market. Certainly, I can agree with that.
One step at a time on our end. It's not going to all happen at once. So
yeah. Moving forward then. So what are some of the challenges you face with building Commonwealth? And you're welcome to talk about what you talked about recently with the recent switch up that you did tech wise.
Yeah. So I think. And you even touched upon this as well. We do support multiple ecosystems, and I think that's happened pretty organically through kind of the few years that we've worked on it, either as like a incubated project or something that's been spun out. And with that, it's just making sure that like we're kind of up to modern web standards. So like in terms of just like how long it takes to load the site. The responsiveness of like dealing with the chain, like there's new packages that are kind of being uploaded, as well as kind of making sure that we're not solving just like small pain points, but solving real problems in terms of like what you mentioned. So it's definitely been a balancing act there. And what we did manage to pull off was like one part of this is updating to a new web framework from Mithril to React. It's really exciting, just because everyone really it's become like kind of like the front end framework for developers in the room or listening, I guess. And then just basically the TLDRs, it makes our job a lot easier in terms of like being able to turn around and like ship new features, make sure that those features actually work really well. Just best practices that we're able to adopt. And so I think we'll definitely be able to see a lot more stuff kind of come down the pipeline.
Yeah, I remember you said there was like literally 20 or so changes all at once when you switched over to using React. Was there any issues with any of those multiple changes all at once?
Good question. I think that software projects are always like a fight against entropy. So just making sure like things are working properly. And I think we actually managed to pull it off relatively well. And that's really a testament, not really to the team of pulling that off. We did have a number of kind of like small things that did, miss kind of QA, but like we were able to shortly address those. And those are kind of probably the 20 things that you're alluding to, but lots more coming. So we're cranking through kind of like 30-ish things a week, which is super exciting. And so hopefully that'll just continue to grow as we get longer in the year.
Yeah, I remember you were discussing some of the accessibility problems, and you were looking at essentially making it easier to access for multiple people in multiple countries, like at a much quicker rate, so that there's the load times are reduced and stuff. I think that is quite important. I remember reading a statistic that if people wait over a second to access a web page, you lose around 30% of traffic or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, that pains me to hear because it's totally true. And I honestly like it's kind of crypto deals with it in general, just because like we have to deal with the chain loading, but it's up to every developer and every team to come up with the right solutions. But super key focus for us, making sure that any interaction much less than a second for sure. And so there's a lot of room for improvement. 20 active kind of like small tasks for us to work towards that. And so we should continue to see incremental improvement there, wherever you are across the world.
Yeah, I mean, people will be earning the money this month, won't they?
Yes, they definitely will. Yeah.
And the good thing is a lot of those results are completely measurable as well, which is nice.
Yes.
It's better than not having non-measurable metrics.
And I actually ended up pushing a change over the weekend as well. So like towards that end. So I've got to feed myself as well. So it's all hands on deck for sure.
It's good. I think it's good to be in the belly of the beast now and again.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you got to push yourself and see where you can take things. All right, let's move on then. So, vision. Right, we were talking briefly about decentralized governance earlier, and we've got your colourful shirt and the utopia in the background. What is your vision then for the future of decentralized governance? I know that we've got 3 days on chain where 3 days on Commonwealth where people can discuss the potential votes before they come on chain. That's voted in, which is great. So it gives time for people to consider. If people aren't really that into the ecosystem, they have 3 days to kind of see the new vote and then decide if they want to interact with it or whatnot. What do you see the future as?
Yeah, I'll start with a little background because like this is something that we definitely deeply think about. But when we look at DAOs or kind of like communities on chain, they sometimes have the worst of both worlds, but they can have the best of both worlds. And so I'll paint a picture of what those things are. So like Osmosis or Ethereum or Bitcoin or what have you, like they have to make super consequential decisions, right? And so those are things that companies have to do. And usually we deal with that with hierarchy. With meetings, right, with memos, all that stuff, which are boring, right? But it gets the job done.
Yeah.
And communities, everyone says this, but like it's like herding cats to a certain extent. And so DAOs, quote unquote, get the worst of both worlds. But we think that like the more your incentives are on chain, we think we can help solve that problem. And so basically, when your kind of like governance process becomes protocolized. Like super clear, like really allowing for bottoms up participation and not needing to get like everyone to check the box. And so like governance should feel more like a staking protocol in the sense that yes, you can, bring forward an idea, but like, even adding an upvote or, a downvote or whatever, actually is helping that process, right? And so the short term is definitely just making that proposal process super easy. So, hey, let's capture the top 5 ideas from Discord this week, and make sure that they're in the same place. All right, these ideas need to be fleshed out. We should allocate, a small bounty for fleshing them out. Okay, now they're actually full discussions. And then you can add another little template, and that would be the on-chain, thing that to be executed. And then we'll say like one thing per week can automatically get pushed on chain. And so that would just be like a streamlined process, hopefully, that we kind of see, so that like new decisions can happen bottoms up instead of like, oh, I'm a, Jacob or Notional DAO or really anyone has to like chase everyone every single week to kind of just move the process forward. It should happen more automatically.
Yeah, I guess then it's about ease of participation and trying to, ultimately enable more involvement in the entire process. And that is a difficult thing in itself without, as you said, having larger platforms in the cosmos being used to encourage people to participate. And that is a real challenge.
It is super, super huge, but I think, first, like super low hanging fruit for us, making sure we're available across platforms. So like mobile, natively and things like that, those are coming. Can't guarantee the specific timeline. Making sure that the voting and all the other capabilities are there, making sure it loads fast. But definitely, I think we'll get to more interesting places where it's like moving things forward automatically, or making sure it's pretty seamless to get ideas from Discord to a proposal.
Well, I mean, it's great that it adds, a one-stop platform for people to discuss all the votes, and there's a lot of value in that. But as we said, participation certainly needs to improve. But even with like DAOs, I was discussing this before briefly, but the idea of like governance in itself, the Cosmos is still centralized to a large extent, and we know that like top 4 or 5 validators can have 30% of the voting rights, and if people decide not to vote by themselves, it's the validators vote that takes hold. And what we've seen as well in recent times is, validators wait right to the last minute, and then they might like completely change their vote from A to B, or might like just vote to abstain or something. Now I'm curious to pick your brains about it, because I'm not sure whether this level of decentralization is as serious an issue as people make out, because obviously validators are funding this game. They're funding, the crypto with their servers and stuff. They're putting a lot of time, effort, and energy. They might employ multiple staff members. So it's almost as if they are, part of an organization that they're running, and therefore shouldn't they have a greater degree of voting rights because they have a vested interest in it, and a vested interest not only to sustain it, but also to help improve the systems that they are part of, because it benefits everybody in that way. But is this level of centralization a negative? Should there be less larger leadership and more kind of like little men coming in and having their piece of the voting pie like we would have in regular politics? What do you think about that?
That's a really great question, and I think kind of at the end of the day, we want like I think what you described is what could be, or like there's ways that we can improve from the current scenario for sure, in general. But what are those specifically? I think everyone, like from a maybe values perspective, is like whenever they put something in, whether it's an idea or something else, they'd like that to be recognized, right? And so that's if you're a validator or just someone participating in community. And I think in general right now we do like just organizations or the world in general, like it's really tough to do credit assignment just to make sure that every little contribution is getting recognized. And I guess like the hope is, well, when like when we see the Uniswaps or the Osmoses of the world, like, and the ability to create tokens that can help coordinate, it brings down the coordination cost there, right? So what I really would love to see actually in this case, and I actually have we have some product stuff that would love to actually share potentially, that like if we can really correctly make sure that all upvotes, all the interactions, all the moving from idea to proposal are actually captured, and there's like 20 different steps essentially that you should be able to like delegate, redelegate based on that, right?
Oh, I
So
see. Oh, that would be
yeah.
quite interesting. Just so like an immediate kind of one-click redelegation based on the validator that you agree with in terms of their ideology, rather than having to go through a lengthy process of reading a lot and yeah,
Yeah.
and ultimately coming to a conclusion based on a random post you find somewhere. Yeah, that's a really good case for enhancing ideological alignment. Yeah,
Mhm.
I quite like that concept.
And there's a lot of product questions to figure out. Could be like a BuzzFeed style quiz. It's like, oh, what would you have done in this case? And then for like proposal 199, like and then find your validator, right? There's a lot of things that can be done
Yeah, find
done
your
there, but
validator.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is a complex field to navigate. I had to make a video on it a while ago because, yeah, I moved back from, I was living in Shanghai for a while, and a lot of my Chinese friends, they didn't understand how a validator worked.
Mm.
So I made a video for them, and they were like, yeah, this is great, because they didn't know what the percentages meant. They didn't know how the commission works. They didn't know how to check their on-chain voting, like mintscan.io. They didn't know. Um, so these fundamental things that we use on a daily basis are like unknown to the general public in some regard, and it is really about getting them to understand this and participate more. And so that's why it's a very valuable thing that you're doing. Like putting yourselves in the center of this and helping people kind of have this information congregated in one space. I think it's very valuable, and especially if the enhancements you're talking about come through.
Well, all the enhancements, like happy to talk, from hopefully just to folks that are new to crypto as well. Like as you kind of said, like we want to make sure that all the low hanging stuff is super available. So you should have a profile, it should be readable. You should be able to see all the validators profiles and everything that they've done, everyone's balances, that if they choose to make that public, and
Mm,
I guess it's crypto, so default public. See all the proposals. We want to make sure that that's all just like clean and clear across
hmm
every single platform, mobile, desktop, etc. And then we can get to the interesting stuff. So,
Yeah.
I know. Hopefully, the audience is, yeah, we're definitely in line with just solving pain points for sure.
Yeah, I
And then we
think
can.
there's a good opportunity there to make some nice graphs, some good data visualizations of kind of what the validators are up to. Yeah, I kind of look forward to seeing that. Next question then. Now this is the harder one. Like how would you even This is why I think the case for human input is very important when you congregate this data. You put it all together from different sources. What's to stop malicious actors like manipulating the upvotes and the data?
Yeah. So those are good questions. So like I think it's the way we think about malicious actors is kind of like an onion. So there's like multiple layers of defense. Um, and well, first comes down to like who has power in the community, right? And so that's like who has the delegations, et cetera. And
Hmm
so how can we make that process easier? Second, we're Sybil resistant, ideally, so you can log in with your wallet directly. But of course, like that's only one small barrier. In terms of like if you're talking about like tampering with any of the upvotes or downvotes or comments on Commonwealth, this is something that you can actually track, in an open source manner. We're totally open source. Every post in the future, near soon, will be signed, and so you'll be able to see kind of like this, Osmo address signed for this comment,
hmm
thread, a reaction, and more. And so you'll see an audit log of everything. And so that should hopefully be able to make sure that no malicious actor in that scenario could kind of come in.
That's brilliant, actually, because if you think about it, I would assume, and this is my assumption, that many malicious actors are just kind of cheap bots that create accounts that are used once, that click like,
Yeah.
and then leave. And if you're able through the data, the on-chain data, to basically see that all the upvotes come from somebody logging in, they've never logged in before, they upvote, and then they're gone. It becomes quite obvious, doesn't it, that this is a case. And I guess this kind of could be coded in, like to recognize this. A red flag could come up and people could identify these issues. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I think on Reddit, actually, this has happened a few times where they've seen actors use multiple accounts to only
Like,
upvote the things that they have posted, and then they
yeah.
get called out eventually by the mods in the forums for that.
And there's that. I think that's like a more complex case, so to speak, of like a simpler thing, and it's like kind of like gating. So every community on a topic basis, this is what they can do today: is set up rules for who can post, who can comment, and more. But we would like to just continue to give more advanced tools for that. So like flagging different posts, but give the ability for users to see, oh, I can see the whole audit log, or communities to set rules around that. So yeah, definitely things that I'm really looking forward to, and hopefully communities will too.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's I'm learning some stuff today. I like that. Moving on then. So, can you explain the process for creating and governing a community on Commonwealth for like a new entity? So it's already been done for Osmosis. Let's say there's a new platform you want to put on there. Let's go for Juno. I think Juno's already on there.
Yeah, there.
Should we go for someone else? Stride's on there, I think, as well.
Try it as well.
Yeah.
Well, you're
Stargaze.
advertising.
Should we go Stargaze?
Yeah, Stargaze is on us as well. But let's say, I mean, I think Kava might not be on us. I mean, let's say the Cosmos Hub. We haven't onboarded the Cosmos Hub directly yet. And so right now, I guess there's a few times in which you could reach out to us. And so first is like we're happy to help you kind of like import your discourse directly, and so you'll have the whole history of conversations, and that's something that we can do and help you set up. And so for right now, it's kind of gated on reaching out to me or anyone else on the team.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, we do have this in like some ways, in that if all you have to do is there's a little plus button on the left sidebar, and you can create a Cosmos community there. And so for Cosmos specifically, you just add your kind of like RPC endpoint, so the URL for your chain, and then set up the description, and then technically you're ready to go. You're an admin, you can set everything up, and just basically for advanced configuration, you can reach out to us, and we can help with that. But that is something that we'd like to extend even to a more kind of like seamless way. And eventually, and this works more for smart contract platforms. So it could be Juno, it could be Atmos, but creating a DAO or a community rather than just like adding a chain. So you should be able to launch a token or a community or a DAO directly through us, and that's something that we're working towards as well.
Wow, you got your finger in a lot of pies for moving forward.
Not all at once, that's still low hanging fruit. This is probably definitely later during the year. That's so no promises, but I'm happy to.
Good to see direction. Yeah. It's good to see direction. That's what we're looking for in this bear market. Just some direction, some growth for when things come up again. Things are gonna, systems are gonna be in place to deal with the extra traffic.
This is what 2025 is going to be, after the market comes around.
Yeah, that's the expected turnaround time, isn't it? I mean, because the money does exist somewhere. It's just in very few hands. And when an opportunity, presents itself, that opportunity will be taken by those with the finances. It's just the waiting game. When are they ready to release the funds?
Yeah, and this is really kind of off topic, but the Federal Reserve. I'm actually curious what interest rate, what got announced. That just happened here 2:30 p.m. 20 minutes ago.
In the UK, I think it's around 4.5 at the moment. So again, it's going to stop borrowing for a while. It's going to push people's mortgage payments up. So it's definitely going to affect, consumer spending and business spending in the economies globally. So we are looking at a recession for the next couple of years. It just needs to kick in. I mean, the house prices haven't gone down significantly enough in the UK yet. I know that because I'm definitely going to be getting another one soon when when the time's right. Looking at a 10-20% decline over the next 2 years, hopefully, in the value of houses where I'm at in the UK.
Well, yeah, that's rough. It's good for buyers, I guess, but definitely rough for holders.
Not always rough for holders as well, because even in these recessions, like the rental prices don't go down, especially like when there's inflation. So you can match inflation on your rent legally. So that, Um, yeah, you can just got to play the game.
Non-investment.
You just got to play the finance game. Yeah, that's why I
No,
love
it's
crypto so much. My degree was financial management, and I worked in an accounting firm for a bit, and I just really like the whole concept of DeFi and the growth in it, and yeah, it's just another like investment product, but one that has great potential with anonymity and extra methods of investment that weren't previously available. I'm really looking forward to like the later advancements in DeFi when people can actually borrow more than they put in, and also like funding, like let's say like a farm in Africa through
yeah.
cryptocurrency. All those things are really exciting for me, and hopefully they'll be using your platform down the line to like discuss these things and have individual cases. But yeah, let's move on. Enough talking about my rubbish. Well, what was the rate, by the way?
They raised it 25 bips, so I
Mm.
don't actually know what the full rate is, but we'll yeah, I think it's like four. It might be 475 now.
It's a planned recession. It's a planned recession.
Not
Uh,
financial, but what all that. Yeah, not
I
so
mean,
much.
this is how the cycles operate, really. It's a standard procedure. Everybody uses Keynesian economics, where there's economic decline, government creates a stimulus, they inject money. Unfortunately, we had more than one stimulus with COVID, so there's more money in the pot now, which is directly going to cause inflation because it's more money chasing the same goods. It's just standard economics. The issue is the US is going to have to find some more restrictive policies with government spending, and that
Yeah,
obviously leads to more recession. And there's high debts to pay, so they can print the money to do that, but that will lead to more inflation. It's a complex situation.
no easy way out, but crypto is the answer. Yeah,
Crypto is one of the answers. One of the
yes,
answers. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I definitely agree that crypto is fantastic and it's definitely a worthwhile investment because I personally invest in it. However, I do agree that fiat currency still has its place in a good way. I'm not completely degen. We need both. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, let's move on. I do love this topic, but
actually, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
um, all right. So, um, yeah, have you thought about how Commonwealth will handle a distribution of rewards and incentives to the community down the line? Will rewards and incentives be offered to people that are active on the site?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like kind of alluding to an earlier answer that I kind of gave is we're here to help community engagement in general. So like on an individual basis and certainly on the platform. And then second, we want to make sure that contributions are fairly rewarded. And so that in the context of Cosmos or Osmosis or any chain or network, that means small contributions can get recognized, and validators who are maybe pushing things forward also can. And so we talked about the governance use case context, but one thing that I think we definitely will continue to experiment with in the medium term, so like 3 to 6 months, is badges. And so those are like badges or NFTs, soulbound tokens, to represent the contributions that your community has given. So hopefully that's at least one way that social contributions are recognized and in a form of incentives. On the purely financial side, I think that's a really great question as well. And as long as they drive good engagement and like they help communities, that's something that we definitely like to help facilitate. So obviously airdrops or whatever have driven kind of new communities, but we also know that can be kind of like wasteful customer acquisitions or drive up customer acquisition costs. And so
Yeah.
definitely just want to be mindful of how we help communities roll that out. And lots more experimentation to happen, but definitely what you can look forward to is ideally badges that are meaningful to both us as well as communities in the medium term.
Going on from that, there's something I didn't really think about. Now you brought it to my attention. What about like the concept of moderation? Like for example, Reddit, they have mods, and you can have mods having a little bit too much power sometimes, as we all know. Like, would there be room for that? And if there is moderation, how this is the difficult thing, right? I know I'm questioning and question inside a question. Just the idea that
Yeah, it's all good.
the idea that like in this kind of space, um,
Mhm.
if you leave absolutely no moderation at all, a bad actor might come in, say something like completely unrelated and disgusting, like fill it up with spam, um, link to you know what these kind of people do, 4chan esque escapades. Um, will you have moderators for that kind of content? And if so, how far are they allowed to push it? Because sometimes moderators are biased and they tend to remove posts. You'd have to have moderators for moderators. A complex issue. How would you go about the form of moderation? Would you let users become moderators that are on there a lot? Would you have moderators moderating moderators? What kind of rules would you have in place for moderation in general?
It's I guess like Elon Musk is finding out, there's no easy answers to this question. Uh, I'll try my best. So it's definitely right now, the uh, the topics that we deal with, definitely there still can be spam, and you can even had alluded to like people who are maybe trying to airdrop farm in some scenarios. So that is a form of spam. And so first, like we're definitely adopting like the Web2 tools for each community to like help drive that process. And so it's just making sure that, okay, you can see who's done it, what's their post history, do they abide by the values of the community, and allow communities themselves to self-moderate for whoever the admin is there. Second set of tools is the like token gating, and advanced tools that we hope to roll out in the future. Kind of as a part of this, we actually do have an unreleased API, and I guess that's a light announcement, but people hopefully push and pull in that, like we can push data and pull data in to help drive this moderation process. But from a value standpoint, yeah, I mean, those are kind of the tools that we can start with and see kind of how they deal with things. But as crypto grows, and as like the topics do kind of I guess like become more popular interest rather than just governance, definitely something that we'll have to figure out. I guess like the thing that I would say is like we're open source. We will continue to decentralize and make sure that we're living kind of like the values of Web3 in general. And so I think there's some standards that are evolving on how I guess like Web3 deals with that. So for example, like transaction censorship on Ethereum or other validator driven networks. The validators themselves are so free to choose kind of like what works or what they want or don't want, which again, but is not good. But that's definitely better than one sole party deciding, and that's something that we're
I mean, like as they say, absolute power corrupts all. It's a tough one. It is a very, very tough question, and arguably akin to nailing jelly to a wall. Very, very difficult to to navigate. And yeah, I guess that's going to have to be a see and learn process, like you said at the start, much like Elon's doing online. I really enjoy watching him destroy the BBC reporter recently.
I did that. That was that was a conversation that on Twitter, and
yeah, delightful that was. Really enjoyed the fact that the reporter came with no fundamental backing or evidence to support his claim. Yeah. All right, moving on. So let's have a look at the closing end of the questions. So can you discuss any future partnerships that you might be having at the moment? Any collaborations you're having with any other chains to expand?
Good question. I mean, so in terms of, I guess like not even chains, we work with Snapshot, and I kind of teased the API, and so there's about 10 or 15 other folks that we're working with to help kind of just make sure that communities get more engagement on Commonwealth, and so that's super exciting. I think I'll quote our BD team on this, but I think we have 75 other projects in the pipeline.
Nice.
And I won't name names specifically, but we're super excited. And I think as you kind of said, like as attention rolls around to the, I guess like bull market, hopefully we're a stronger product better moderation experience, decentralized, and have on one of these projects, and really are driving a lot of engagement.
Yeah, it sounds like you're definitely moving towards expansion with that many projects. Difficult to vet, of course. I wonder if there'll be votes to have the Commonwealth be like the place people must go to put these on chain in the same way that it has been with Osmosis.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting that level of a vote in is very valuable to a platform for sure.
It's no, yeah, and it's not something we take lightly. It's we want to make sure that we're continuing to help everyone, help users, help validators, and help whole communities continue to move the projects forward.
Yeah, and I understand that with you've just done a massive upgrade of most of it, and I do recall in the spaces you were talking about an app as well on the way. Was that correct? Down the line.
Yeah, that's another one of
One of the many.
it's
Gosh.
so I mentioned some, so like I'll definitely have to caveat this conversation is we want to make sure we're releasing stuff that like just works. And so
Yes.
I did take I spent some weekend time, I think last weekend before the Twitter space. And I got like test flight version of the app running. And so like literally if you were in our office, you could see it, but it'll definitely take time for that to happen. But just to talk about order of operations, gating and making sure that works, the site reliability and just speed that we kind of talked about, opening up the API, working with other platforms, Discord, so the conversation can be linked.
Mm-hmm.
Those are kind of on the short term. But second half of the year, it's the rewards that we talked about, and ideally mobile and these other things. But yeah, mobile is definitely something that when I was able to show everyone in office, it brought a smile to people's face because it's like, oh, it's not just a website; it's something that's like it actually just works. So
yeah, I mean, phone usage is becoming far superior to computer usage. It's just the way things are turning in terms of the stats. Everyone's got to get on it or get out.
And I think it's around 30% of our users now, and so it's like or site visits are by similar metrics, and so it's definitely something that we take. Yeah, we want to make sure that well, I want to use it on mobile, so sooner rather than later for sure.
Yes, yeah, for sure. It'd be nice to have an app on the go. Very convenient as well because you can have push notifications and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, rather than emails. All right then. So finally, then. How do you see the Commonwealth evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? I know you've alluded to it. Let's just say, all right, you've talked about it in loads of different ways. Let's just say the three main things that you expect in terms of the next 5-10 years, like the things that you will have like cemented, ready to go.
Three things. Yeah. 5-10 years is a long time, so I definitely wouldn't underestimate it. But I guess like our whole goal is like really just everyone they should have a real chance to like help shape progress in their community, and like as DAOs expand, should be like art, science, infrastructure that currently exists, whether it's financial or otherwise, with their on-chain community, right? And so we're not there today because like we only work for kind of like validators and like hardcore enthusiasts, I think. But definitely first is just make it easy for everyone to use, like in general. So that is the mobile, that is like just making sure it works across the globe. That's number one. The second is making sure it works for other types of communities. So not just protocol communities, but whether you're an NFT community or Stargaze collection.
So expanding like much more across the Cosmos. Yep.
Yes, in both ways.
Oh, sorry, not just the Cosmos. Loads of other entities in and out of the Cosmos. Yeah.
And but I personally, I would be I've got to be the biggest optimist on the team. Of course, like making sure that we're delivering on stuff, but it's just been really crazy to see where we've come in a year. And so all the things that we have mentioned on this call, I hope we can get done much more soon. 5 years. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. That's the dream, isn't it? Like it's a lot of tasks you set yourselves, but I think it's better to set yourselves like tasks with, a large scope than to not do it at all. It's, you know, why not chase the dream rather than just you know, go for like little incremental things.
And you know, anyone can fact check us. We have our set of issues, like literally GitHub issues, set out, and so and it's not all going to happen at once, but certainly kind of just making that experience easier and easier every single day is what we try to do.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, with the spaces, you're doing a lot of product development. You are taking feedback from the community and working actively on that. I have seen that. So fingers crossed, like that all comes into fruition with the app as well, moving down the line as you expand into more spaces. Last question then.
Okay.
How can interested individuals and communities get involved with the Commonwealth, and what resources would be available to them?
So I guess like I'll call it three different types of folks. So developers would love to you know, everything is open source, and so we have a number of, you know, open beginner issues as well as advanced issues that we'd love to get help on. And so, you know, just saying hi on you know, the repo itself would be really great. But the second thing, and you know, alongside that, we're working to make sure that documentation is continually publicized. Second thing, I guess, would be really just everyone. Like, please tell us where it works, it doesn't work, what we should improve. We want to make sure that's taken seriously. The easiest place could be just on the site. We have a feedback form in the top right menu, but you can also pop in our Discord as well.
So
and like
Discord and
yeah.
So yeah, so I'm glad. Yeah, the Discords are very functional when it comes to feedback. So yeah, these are the
Yes.
places people should come see you to give you feedback, because you're in the stage of like taking feedback now, growth stage, a lot of development in the pipeline. It's been really, really good speaking to you today. Like, you've got so many things going on. It's yeah, it's a large undertaking that you're going for, but it's valuable all the same. And I'm really looking forward to see the developments as you guys move forward. Not just on the Cosmos, but in the entire ecosystem.
James, appreciate it. And it's, you know, motto internally is like one thing at a time, you know, even if we have a lot of stuff. So that's maybe the one message I'll take away is, but trying to make sure that one thing at a time is done really well.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Well, it was nice talking to you, mate. As you can see, the lights, the light is getting darker now in the UK, so the table in the background starting to appear.
No, yeah, just lightly so. But no, I appreciate your time and thank you so much for having me on. This is really great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed today.